Ready? All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise. The flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Calvadas?
Here.
Mr. Caucus?
Here.
Mrs. Pasio?
Here.
Mrs. Moore? Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Root?
Here.
Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Bach?
Here.
And Mr. Wright?
Here.
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. 1, posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office on January 7, 2013. And 2, emailed to the retrospect and Courier Post on January 7, 2013. This is new business discussion for this meeting. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to look at the minutes. And we didn't look at them, but please review them before next week's council meeting. Public hearing, ordinance 1318. Just look at this.
That's the,
It's right here, the first one. Oh, 13.
that's the Corbin Block crosswalk.
Patty, you want to, anything you want to report on that? It's just the crosswalk down at the St. Marie Grady.
Yes, that's what it's all about.
It just has to be done officially. The road is paved at this point.
The road is paved at this point, and I believe I'm looking for a cement block, the barrier that's supposed to go where I thought, I was talking to Scott, he was talking about some type of cement barrier that's going to go in front of the pole in the parking lot. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not aware, but I'll follow up on that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not aware of that.
But this is just a legal description of the
Yeah,
crosswalk.
just for the crosswalk.
Just to make sure it's a real crosswalk.
Okay, so it's going to be second reading. Okay, great. I don't know if everybody got a copy of this, and I'm going to probably hand this off. This is a letter from Bernie Moore. This is in reference to an ongoing issue that the borough's had since 2011 about a fence. Everyone get a copy of this letter? What I'm going to recommend is that we turn it over once again to our attorneys to just look at it one more time. Have our zoning and construction official one more time look at it. And I think this council needs to make a definitive determination, something that we can either say, we're doing this, or we're doing that, and then we can move on. But it's, I think that, I don't think we've ever given them an exact answer. Is that, do you feel we have given them an answer?
But the code official made the role, I mean, they determined front yard. That's what we gave power, and Jack gave the letter. It was determined last time.
Well, Jack's letter kind of, you want to, it's funny you're here, Jack.
Well, I vaguely remember, I certainly remember the issue, I vaguely remember what the content of my letter was.
Yeah.
But, I will say that I do remember that there was a significant issue there, and it was an interpretation issue. I think Mr. Ward's concern was what was a side yard and rear yard setback and who had the authority to make those decisions. Now, without having the letter in front of me,
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember. I know that it was, I wouldn't say citing chapter and verse case law as to my decision.
I think if we remember it, the last sentence of Jack's letter basically said, well, the code enforcement official.
You said it was.
It was the code enforcement official's decision. I think though that if we're going to go with that answer, this council should send something back in writing. That's really what I'm getting. I don't think we've failed to communicate back to Mr. Moore, in my opinion, in writing. Did you want to jump in?
Just so you know the process, so it is the code official typically, which is
Yeah.
correct, that issues the interpretation. If the individual that issues that interpretation disagrees, he has the right, the zoning official has the right, and it's the zoning officer, not the code official, has the right to take it to land use board, and the board will make the final determination.
Oh.
So anytime there's a question, like I have a lot of down in Gloucester County where the ordinances aren't always very clear. A lot of times, I mean, we have one of them every couple of months, coming in. What is the interpretation here? What does the board think the ordinance says?
Jack,
That's that, is go to the zoning officer or official, and then issue the interpretation, and if the party is not satisfied with it, he has to.
she has the right to appeal the land use.
Right, and it doesn't cost anything. You just
Okay.
go in.
So-
It's just an informal thing.
Do we want to, since we've got Jack and Steve's opinion, do
No.
you recommend going to land use?
In this situation, okay, in this situation, now, I can drive out of here and I can count 20 houses that have the same fence.
Okay.
What do we do?
I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue we have is we have one resident complaining about one fence. If your point is, we shouldn't look at this problem because you think it might open up a bigger problem, if that's what you're saying, though.
That's not what I'm saying, but what do you, now, this is already decided, we need to go back to the other people.
Well, I think what, we have an obligation to answer this. Does everyone here agree that we have?
Yes, I
We
do.
didn't know if the construction office answered it.
No, we only have Jackson.
I don't.
2 years ago, I know that whoever
It was
approved the
Chris,
fence,
it was probably Chris.
and that was the issue, whether or not it was properly approved.
And I think what Steve has given us an opportunity, we have another letter dated August 7th. I think we have an obligation to answer the letter. And if council,
Yeah, why can't we just inform Ernie that there is another option?
yeah, I mean, that's what we're saying. Like, we're not making a decision. Now, we're giving him the option that he can go to land use.
Right, the process is that the zoning official has to make his ruling one way or the other. And you can use that based on Jack's letter, but he's the entity in the town that can make a decision on that. And then, if he's not comfortable with making a decision, he can answer the interpretation by the planning board. Or he can issue his decision and the.
So the zoning officer would always turn to the planning board to ask for an answer.
If he's at all, doesn't want to, I don't know the answer, then he brings it up and goes to the board.
But I think we're past this at this point. I think that we've got an answer.
You only have an answer from the attorney. I do believe you should have an answer from the zoning officer. That's the proper channels.
And that's what we'll answer.
If you'd like, I can make sure my office follows up to make sure there's some type of closure on this.
Yeah, I mean, just some kind of closure now. Ed, is your point, is there a fear of these other properties?
It's been bad practice, it's been done. And zoning officer made,
Well-
like, we have a member on council too. I mean, she was just issued a permit on a fence that.
Well, that's an interesting point. Maybe you can answer this. If an employee of the borough, Rich, Jack, an employee of the borough is doing something improper, are we obligated as council to continue the practice of some improper act?
Obviously, when something is brought to
That's what you're saying,
council's
Ed?
attention that there is something that was done incorrectly, it should be responsible to be corrected going forward.
Yeah. But I think it's saying, what about the past stuff, though? He's saying that there's an issue here with 20 other fences. If we open up this can of worms, or we open ourselves up to 20 other fences, that's what you're saying?
I would say this, based on other land use applications, I've sat on the planning board and I heard these interpretations by the planning board solicitor. Just because in the past the interpretation may have not been strictly adhering to the ordinance, but once you have a strong interpretation that this is exactly how you're going to interpret it going forward, is how you have to interpret it. I've never had a case where,
It was retroactive.
across the board.
So going forward from this point.
Exactly.
So we've got an issue here, and it's regardless of the other.
So, even if it's, say you go to the board, and the board does make that interpretation, which is more restrictive than what was going on before, all right? It would then be up to individual parties to try to enforce that new restriction. Like the borough can't go and take away the permits, you issue the permits. So then it becomes more of a civil matter between people in terms of fences. If people are complaining about, I'm not quite sure of the situation.
It's a fence, exactly.
But is it neighbor, or?
It's a corner lot, and there is a.
Main Street.
It's, the front yard setback dynamic as to what is the side and what is the front.
Okay.
And the ordinance permits a 6-foot fence on the side and a 4-foot fence on the front, or something along those lines.
Very simple.
So the fence that is next to Mr. Moore's house is, in his opinion, too tall.
Okay.
It should have been the
It's,
front
it's
yard.
Mr. Moore's front yard, it's the other resident's side yard,
Right.
at least by interpretation, because he faces a different road that doesn't face
That's it.
Sherrington. Had he been facing Sherrington, we would not have this problem, because they would be considered front yard. The question here is the definition, does a corner property have 2 front yards?
Pretty sure your ordinance says yes.
So am I.
Okay.
But,
So, but then, Jack, the only thing I'm gonna ask you to look at with your office is my understanding that if the permit's issued, and it's issued for a period of time, that
Well,
you're.
the permit, yeah, I mean, the permit was,
2011.
the permit was appropriately issued. The question becomes whether the permit that was issued should be validated because the size of the fence was too high. That becomes the problem, because, then you have a problem with what you do.
See, I'm not aware that you go back and undo a permit. Now, and I know there's something you can latch on to a case law, I know there is.
Right.
I just don't know what that is. And maybe you could, you're gonna get an interpretation, whatever that is, and then my understanding is from going forward, that's interpretation, but you cannot go back and invalidate all these people's permits unless they did something where they misrepresented what they were intending to do. So, if a gentleman came in and said, I'm putting a 6-foot high fence here, permit was issued, permit's issued.
Well, I think that, once again, we can get our old information, the zoning officer information, and if it's correspondence to say that there's an option to go to the land use board.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's gonna help him out. Because what Steve's saying, he's not gonna be able to,
You'll-
if it was done by the law, it's gonna stay, the permit's gonna stay that way.
Right, then
Unless he,
he does it in civil.
Then he does a civil.
From a civil matter.
All I'm trying to do is answer a letter. We are not stopping somebody from going to court against us on this issue. See, one of the things you gotta remember is this complaint happened the day of the installation. So there was, even though we failed to get anything done in the past 2.5 years, it was done at the time.
Point of clarification, the civil would be against the neighbor, not the buyer.
Yeah, neighbor against neighbor, and the code official is not culpable. I mean, they can't draw him in. They name it, but there's a lot of case law that the zoning official and building official.
Well, that's good.
Right. I mean, there's tort claims notice issues and all kinds of issues that.
So we'll have some type of response
The civil matter would be
against neighbors,
outside of the borough.
a neighbor dispute.
Would the response be coming from us as council?
Well, I think that our response is going to be what we know, and we would give this option and say, look, our code enforcement official who had the authority to make this determination has made this determination. And then, at least that's what I'm hearing, and then if you disagree with his opinion, it doesn't get appealed to us, it gets appealed to the land use board. And I think what he's asking is, he's under the impression it gets appealed to council, but it gets appealed to the land use board. Is that correct?
No, it goes to land.
So it goes to land use, not
You
us,
need your zoning officer to issue a formal opinion.
and then it'll go to land use. Okay?
Or if he can't issue the formal opinion, he can take it to land use right from the get-go.
Okay, well, just go to the land use. Mrs. Kelly's going to be running a little late with the raffle license. I don't think there's going to be any problem with that. There is a resolution for a new streetlight on Schumer. Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, this is something we visited 2 years ago.
Yes.
Now, the lights are evenly spaced on that road. It's just, there's some overhanging trees on the street, but I don't feel it's warranted for us. Because if you put a light there on that pole, you'll have two.
I know.
Pole. Yeah, let's go, there's a light on a pole, it skips a pole to that pole. So we're gonna do put light, 3 poles.
Well, I think what the councilwoman did is she asked the clerk to contact PSE&G and ask PSE&G for their recommendation.
Well, where was there, do they have a?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to, turn it over to Joyce.
Resolution. I sent it to Mr. Walter Rupp. He went out and looked at it and said that it could use a light. That's basically what he said.
Well,
I mean, I'm not
I
saying.
can
maybe the word really wasn't anything strong when he
They said
said
it could use a
You
light
could use the light.
they could use a light, and it's $8.74 a
a month,
month.
so it would have to go down to council.
But we always had one in one, every other light, every other pole with light. So if this starts, we're gonna have light all over the place.
I don't know
How
how,
many phones missing? Or is this?
Rough, are you with that?
you know, I agree, this came up a few years ago,
Yeah, we
the
did.
residents complained. We sent the chief of police out there, he felt that there was no need for it. There was some dispute over accidents and things like that. It got a little heated, came to council refused to really vote on it up or down, if you remember.
Yeah.
There was no vote on it. And as for the cost of the light, if you remember, we did get rid of 3 lights that year. And so it wasn't like it would be a cost of the borough, because we made some reductions. And I hear your point. The only thing is that there is no rhyme or reason for streetlights. I drive around town, there is no rhyme or reason. There are lights just where there are lights. Steve, do you have any input on why lights get placed where they are?
Now, since 2000, gosh, I think it's 2005, they came up with the residential site improvement standards, which actually has requirements for street lighting and the location, spacing, at intersections, average illumination. Prior to that, it was under the municipal ordinances. And probably most of these lights predated when you actually were enforcing lights, because
They're just all over.
probably wrote the ordinances after all these houses were built. So they're just whatever you call like lighting back in the day, because there's no rule.
I clearly don't have a problem with the light. I didn't have a problem with it 2 years ago.
I really don't see anything, but
And then you got
I think
pole,
if- I think
this
we
pole
said-
that, but it was $3,000.
The pole got damaged?
No pole. We had to put a pole in for the senior citizens. It prevents the house on this 9th Avenue, the road, because the cars were getting robbed. I was in charge of the lights going.
So streetlights work,
But if you spend $3,000 for a pole.
but there's a pole.
There's a
There's no
pole.
cost to this, correct? The only cost is the monthly fee.
That's right, that's all.
That's it. I mean, Mike, do you have any more before we move on? Obviously, Councilwoman Moore feels that this is something that's adequate. I think that Councilwoman Kelly, Patty, what was your? I mean, I'm not,
You start this, you gotta start putting lights after lights, I mean.
well,
I
I
mean,
think,
that's the whole, that's the only thing, I mean, I think.
well, how long have you been on council? This is on your 3rd year. How many people have requested it?
I live there.
What I'm saying is.
We had 2 requests in 36 months.
What?
Jack, do we have the right to look at each one individually?
You have to look at them as a request, just like you did with this one.
Now, I think the standards might help us a little bit.
You can't apply those standards to what's out there right now.
that's for new construction.
Yeah, they're really apples and oranges.
Well, I'm all for public safety, so if that's,
I mean, it's a corner, if everyone knows the corner of Davis
Well,
and
you got a
Schumer.
lot of cars now, so the kids all have cars.
There's a lot of cars.
Right, they have a lot of cars in that. It's just like everywhere else. Now they've got, maybe got 4 or 5 cars,
Yeah.
and they want lights.
Well, like I said, I mean, we can talk about it a little bit more. It's on for the agenda for a vote on Tuesday night. Resolution accepting donation from the Rotary Club, just to remind everybody about this. The Jonathan Atlanti was a musician in town. He passed away. And the Rotary Club, a donation in his name to provide for a music teacher during our summer recreation program. So the club has donated the money. Mr. Wright felt that we need to accept it formally. That's $1,800.
It's not in there. I didn't do it yet, because
Oh,
I never.
Oh, it's not in here?
I never done one.
Oh,
Thank you, Teresa. That's what I was
No,
going
no,
to say.
I didn't do it yet.
so
I have to.
Rachel says a letter accepting the donation, is that what you're? Resolution adjusting sewer charges, that's typical. Resolution of authorizing property nameplates, that's typical. Discussion of bus stop letter, Joyce, did you
Well,
want
I
this?
included the letters in the back of your packet. This was a survey, this was a letter that I received back in a few months ago, asking for someone to go and look at all our bus stops on Route 41. And Nick Ritz went out and checked them all for them to see if they were still being used, and they were. So now, in order to keep keep our bus stops, they want us to memorialize it with a resolution, so, it's up to you.
Oh, this is only 41, this is not, it's not everyone in the town. This
Oh,
is
there's
just,
No, no, no,
different
no,
streets,
no,
they're different
41.
sides.
oh, it is everywhere.
You,
Yeah.
no, there's two letters,
Okay, Black Horse Pike,
yeah, and you'll see the two letters attached.
They both go down 41, where they're from.
Yeah,
okay, so do we need a legal, what do we need to do, just a resolution?
no, I'm just going to copy this one here, that's what they said they wanted, actually have a legal description. Rowan Avenue, beginning at the northerly curve line of Rowan Avenue, extending 105 feet northerly therefrom. Sounds like your jargon, that's what it sounds like. But that's, I'm just going to use that and say that you, if you want to, that you accept it. I don't know what you want to do.
It's just, they're asking for a resolution.
We
Sure,
do.
that's all.
I can't imagine if we want to get rid of the bus stops.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay, well, that's all, I'll do a resolution.
Unless we get bicycles.
Yeah. The other two we can't discuss until the directors are here. The third one we can't discuss till the directors here. Fourth item we can't discuss till the directors here. And the last item we can discuss is reallocation of funds from First Lake to Beaver Branch Park. In 2010, which was the 2011 bond, there was $25,000 set aside for Hirsch Lake. It was not earmarked for any specific project. The money's been sitting there for the past 2.5 years, and because of the costs incurred at the Beaver Branch Park to finish the project, I think this has been a policy that the borough's had, is finishing projects is better than not finishing them and then before we start something else. So I think the idea here is to reallocate the $25,000 to finish Beaver Branch Park, with the idea, though, that hopefully this council will come back to Hirsch Lake once we have a plan.
You want, so you're saying the project went over?
I think this will be the,
This is for the extras.
this is also the third time we've gone over.
Oh,
Last year, we added $150,000.
But when you went over, you had the money appropriated when you went over it already?
I think when we went over last year, we probably should have appropriated a little bit more money.
But, I mean, did we have, when we approved the extras, did we have the money?
I think that's the CFO question.
I mean, you had the money when you approved
We
the
haven't
change?
gone over yet, because the contract hasn't exceeded the amount of the contract. And I don't have a way of knowing when Bill's going to which portion is related to which portion. There's no change order before me or before council.
If they did extra work, there had to be a price tag put on the extra
Like
work.
every project that we have, we do a final resolution authorizing a final change order, the work is always done prior. So
I think we should.
I think it's very typical of road projects, right? I mean, if we have problems on, I've been a part of road projects where at the very end, there were change orders that we had to do.
There is the extras, they have had issued work records, received that work, the work has not been installed yet, so there's no payment due for that work. And it was brought up in the conversation that money has to be allocated somehow for these work records.
And this is our land, because I think this council wants to do this.
Did they direct the work, right? For money to put-
I think that we've agreed with an anticipation. But
Yes,
it's not been,
work.
so we have to put the funds.
So the work's done.
Yeah.
He just said the work was not done.
Is that the installation, the heater?
Not all of it is completed, so the heater's not installed, their insulation is insulation is installed in the foundation, and the block wall is not, in the attic space yet. Camera security, door locks, all that stuff is not installed, but it's anticipated. I mean, we gave the work order.
Yeah.
They gave the work order, so it's been approved.
Right.
So we need to put the final funding in place. And we would also hope that there's no other unforeseen costs before we finish the project.
Are they getting money from there? Is there any, are we going to have any trouble with Hirsch Lake? I mean, we always have problems, and I don't want any
No.
floods or anything down there because of the people.
No, the Hirsch Lake money originally was to do some improvements to
Right.
old bridges and things like that. But at the time, there was no plan to do that. So in 2011, 2012, and now 2013, we've still not developed a plan.
I go by there now and I
And
see.
the Beaver Branch Park project started in 2007? Is that when this project started?
For funding.
Yeah.
So we started this project in 2007. We're on our 6th year of this project.
I want to make it clear that that does not preclude us from doing things to improve our state.
No.
Through the operating budgets and through the manpower that we're already paying. It's just that we're going to do capital items as part of it, it should be part of an overall plan. And I want to make it clear that this was my recommendation to the engineering committee to consider this through the full council for everyone's input, because we have a project that's sitting there waiting to move. We have another project that's sitting there waiting to finish. I think that you should utilize the funds that we have sitting out there already authorized, rather than authorizing more debt at that point in time.
Well, if we authorize the HERB, we have the money in place then, so.
No, listen,
there's
we-
money from there.
Yes, and what we could also do as an alternative, and I do not recommend this one, is we can utilize the funds that are already appropriated and already in the capital plan for improvements to borough properties, but the borough buildings, which this is a borough building. But that money is very flexible, and I would rather use that for things that we do for our main buildings as opposed to part of this project, but that would be.
Mr. Wade, are you recommending that we take the money out of the buildings instead of using the Hirschlake
Well,
money?
I wouldn't want to see the money
The
from
Hirsch
Hirschley.
money's been sitting there for 3 years.
But you
We've
can
done
do the
nothing with it.
engineering, I mean, do the.
I mean, I think we have to trust our CFO that the
Right, but
money,
I just don't want to give the impression, this is from my point of view, that this does not mean we're not going to make improvements to our state. We know that $25,000 without a plan is going to be sitting there for another 3 years. And from a selfish accountant point of view, I would rather reappropriate these funds like we've done in the past with bond ordinances that have balances out there without taking out new debt. And then when the Hirschlake plan comes to fruition, then funding that fully or in phases. So that's my, again, it's just a recommendation.
yeah, just to make council aware, again, this is not the first time we've reappropriated bond money. I mean, bond money is just money that we borrowed, that if there was money left over, we've done it to fix.
Balance road projects, when
We've always done
road projects came in less than anticipated, you take the remaining allocation of that bond, you reallocate it to another purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unusual. I think the only thing that I think everyone, and I think Mr. Wright has a good point, it's not that we say we're not going to do any work at Hirsch Lake. We intend to do it, and we can actually use operating expense money, we can use our manpower to do some of it, but the capital portion, we could borrow the money in the future. And I agree, the money's been sitting there for 3 years. I think we might as well finish the Beaver Bridge part.
Is there
Okay?
gonna be enough money to finish it?
Well, this will be our third time increasing the
That's what
amount
it
of,
is.
the money down there. The only thing I'll say, I think it'll finish the major portions of it. We do have the recreation fund money, the 25,000, right, Mr. Root, that we're gonna use that money to pay for what we carved out of the project. Remember, we carved out the goals for the soccer, we carved out the benches, the bleachers, and I think you've got a list of items. Yeah, so hopefully, before the end of this year, I think we can order all that stuff.
Talking with the engineering committee and also with Rich, is it's our understanding that we already have a set list of work records as for the report from the engineering committee. There's also one pending change order, which is a back and forth we're negotiating that with contractor for the conduits when there was, there's a lot of, push and pull between her installation and contractor installation. We're being the referee and we're negotiating that to make sure it's the best possible number for the borough. So that is something that is going to be brought to the next meeting. But my understanding that if anything over the 25 allocated with this group that we're talking about, you still have the general borough buildings in terms of the bond issue that you can use as your cushion.
For that conduit.
For the cushion, right.
Okay.
So.
Because there was issues with the conduit, PSE&G and all that.
All that wonderful stuff. So the funding source, my understanding is after you do this, you still have the flexible funding source, which is borough buildings. Correct? Correct. Okay. So if you make this move, that gets you most of the way there, if not all the way there. And then if there's anything else, it'll be a change order that we brought before the full council for us to review and act on.
And just to make it clear, again, there are many projects that we do that we spend less money than we think we're going to spend.
And I can summarize this very quickly. This was a 3-season bathroom facility, and now a 4-season bathroom facility. It was a 3-season bathroom facility that had manual locking, and now it has automatic locking and security features. That's the whole difference between this project. And that's what you're buying, the extra upcharges is for buying the extra seasons of what they use.
And the automatic
Is it
line.
necessary that we have the extra season? I'm just questioning.
It is now.
It is, yeah. And the automatic locking, well, just remember, that was the point that you had brought up, the automatic locking. And one of the things we've been finding out is that borough properties have not been locked. So by going with automatic locking, I think this will hopefully help us out. Because there's been many occasions where our buildings and properties have not been locked.
This
And we've had
is the end of a long period of discussion with the engineering committee. I remember being here at this meeting when we talked about, at the regular meeting, talking about the changes and everything else. And,
I remember all the rock changes, I just don't remember, honestly remember the heat thing coming up as being, making it into.
Yeah.
Do you? I just don't ever remember, I mean, I'm not against it, I'm just questioning, is it something that we have to do? And you're saying.
Well, we're at
It is
that,
now.
we're
You're
done,
right.
we're finishing the project.
Okay,
And it's
no,
We've
not,
already made that policy decision.
yeah, we made that decision when we decided
Just
to,
questioning, that's all.
yeah. And hopefully we'll get some use out of this thing starting in September, right? Or, not September, spring.
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 Yeah, it should be, that fall, ready to go, done, everything good, you know.
And that was the plan from the get-go, was to be ready by the spring of 2014,
I
because
was
your recommendation.
I was hoping that it would be ready.
This
late
fall.
Summer, early fall, I was hoping, but it'd definitely be in place by the time the field was ready.
What was the initial finish date?
It's ridiculous, it's like May or something.
It
if
was
I recall.
April, and then it went to June, and then it went to July 18th.
Are we talking about what part
This is
of
the
it?
bathroom.
Well, let's bring it back. 2007, the borough received $500,000 to start this project. And
I
it
don't
took,
think we received one.
Well, we got the letter.
You got the letter. I think it took.
There was a gentleman named
I
Phil
was
Collins.
here when we did bond rating, so it took a while.
We've actually, and the borough actually put some of its own money in, if you remember, the borough actually put in $150,000 to start off with. At the beginning of the
What's
project.
the deal with the floors?
I'm sorry,
The floors, bathroom floors?
it's
What
concrete. And,
Okay. With the work?
yeah, I can bring up the bathroom floors, and we actually got a response back to the contractor. Bathroom slabs that they poured, they didn't finish that correctly, because they didn't do it in a timely manner. They were deemed unacceptable by our office. They had, under the contract, they have options to do remedial work. They submitted for an epoxy, a two-part epoxy floor leveling system, which we approved. It was installed. Contractor unfortunately did not finish it correctly. He used a broom finish, which is like an exterior concrete finish, instead of an interior finish. So this is twice the poor judgment on the slab preparation. He has since power sanded, for lack of a better term, almost like you would do it like terrazzo. And he has sanded down the concrete floors, so the concrete floors are very nice, very smooth. And that'll be finished with the two-part epoxy paint, which was per spec. If he would have just finished the slab
You went ahead,
the first time, in a timely manner, we won't be talking about this.
so he went in, like a terrazzo, you're saying he grinded it?
Yeah, she had to get it right, otherwise he'd have.
That's pretty nice, like a wobble.
It's not as nice as terrazzo, but it's very good finish. So it came out nice and smooth.
Okay. I want to make the record show that Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Kelly have arrived. We did skip a few items, even because we knew you were coming late, but we went through some of the easy stuff. Just to bring you up to speed, there was a little discussion about the light on Schubert Avenue, but we think that that's acceptable. We talked about the Rotary getting a donation, we have to do that. There was something about the bus stops, but just to let you know, all we're doing is formalizing the bus stops on Clemens Bridge Road. So where we're at on our agenda is the discussion of 2% raise for the police chief and the captain. If Ms. Kelly would like to bring this up.
As you know, non-contractual raises were given to the clerk and the tax assessor and the CFO. At that time, the discussion arose as to whether or not we would be giving, the directors would be giving this 2% to our administrative people in the departments for public works and for public safety. It's my recommendation that we do approve the 2% raise for the chief and the captain. I believe it's the right thing to do, and we want to be consistent with the raises that were given to the contractual employees as well as the non-contractual. I want to treat everyone similarly. So I'm requesting that we look at that raise for the captain and the chief, the 2%. There is a proviso, and it was suggested by Mr. Root that next year, when these raises are considered, I'm not saying they're going to be granted, they're going to be considered, providing that there's evaluations and reviews built into that. So I would like to have one would look at that and make sure that we would be in conformance with policy as far as having reviews and evaluations done for these non-contractuals.
Okay.
That would be my visa.
Okay, did you want to piggyback on this before we
Pretty
have
much,
discussion?
I just want to, what Eleanor's saying, I'm pretty much on board with it. I mean, I do think that honestly, it's something that I think we should have addressed earlier on. I'm in agreement with it. I feel that it's deserving of them. They've done, as far as I'm concerned, with positions that I've dealt with thus far, they've done more than their share, and they're deserving of it at this point. Again, under the same stipulation that reviews start from this point to try to set a precedent of some sort, instead of just, it's because, you know what I mean? It's just because. So.
Mr. Root, since your name was brought up, did you want to at least, because you, it was your, I know you kind of brokered this a little bit.
Yeah, I just feel that the reviews should be put into place now, before it comes up again next year, that we, you know, we're in the same boat that we are in this year. Not that I feel that anybody doesn't deserve a raise, but that, like Bev said, just because. So,
To make it clear to the audience, we have contractual people that we negotiate with on usually on 4-year terms. Those raises and benefit packages are negotiated. We then have a group of statutory employees that are protected, and it's by the legislature that they decide that we have to treat them equal to the average of all our employees. But then we have this other group of employees who are also non-contractual that need to be looked at also. And in the past, there was a time where I think that they were treated, and very similar to what we're doing tonight, they were treated the same as the men in the contract or the employees in the contract. The difference is that they are not the same, because the contracts are very specific, whereas management people are salaried employees. They do not get some of the benefits that the contractual employees get, but they do get benefits as being administrative employees. So, is there any other discussion about these two issues? Anything else? I think that what we can do is, I don't think we can necessarily put a, you know, the review and accountability. I think that's something we have to work out and discuss in committees and things like that. We have to be a little cautious with this, because they are protected under civil service, they are protected under the statutes, so we can say that we will look at attendance, performance, those kinds of things, which we could do in any department, but we have to be, you know, we will get legal advice.
Yes.
And the other big issue was, this goes back to the Public Works, sewer superintendent, discussion of personnel changes at the Public Works Department. So let's bring this up.
Not prepared, but yes, we discussed it amongst the committee. We did talk personnel-wise about just kind of not doing away with anybody's position, just kind of reassigning their positions. Nick was in attendance, Nick Ritz, as well as John Gunn and Pat Moriarty. All three of them were present. We presented the idea to them. We gave them a couple of days to think about it, and they did come back. And the overwhelming response was they were in agreement with our findings of just trying to put John almost back into the sewer department to try to have him be in charge of sewer. He would still have a couple guys underneath of him that he could rely on to assist him. Pat would kind of be, we broke it down into 3 teams, and Pat would kind of be on a swing team with a couple of the employees, and then we were breaking it down even further with Nick being in charge of the road department, which is almost kind of, I'll go as far as to say, a semi-promotion for Nick to be in that position. And then beneath those 3 would be individual teams where we would appoint people that they would be responsible for 3 teams, so that way we can at least kind of scatter throughout the town, everybody having a responsibility to do individual things. It seemed well, everybody seems to be on board. Matter of fact, it's not even been officially done, and they were kind of like, does this already start? So I go, no, not yet, but I think it's going to be a positive change. It's going to put more responsibility on the laborers to be responsible for the groups that they're in, and I think that that's what we need to do, and hopefully it'll make them step up their game, and we'll go from there. So I don't think we're going to make discuss it a little bit further, just get the last of it ironed out, and then when it comes back, we can take it from there. I mean, it's on vacation right now.
Will he be back for Tuesday's council meeting?
I believe he will.
Okay, because just to piggyback on this, one of this there would be a change be a
Yep.
temporary appointment, is that correct?
Yeah, it is a temporary appointment.
6-month temporary appointment, because we are civil service now, we do have obligations to follow the
And
civil
he was fine
service.
with that, he was okay with that. I think everyone collectively, do you agree? I mean, you were in attendance, that it was overwhelmingly, I think they were very receptive to it. I didn't get any feedback the following day or anywhere along the line that they were not in agreement with it.
Yeah. And we also, I think that the council has made a commitment to the Public Works Department to,
Yes.
put pieces of equipment, continue to put pieces of equipment in that department to make sure they're able to do their job, and personnel to do their job. Be it part-time employees, so they can get the leaf season done better this year, and things like that, and I think it did go very well.
Those are all the details I have to get ironed out.
Are there any questions for Mrs. Moore?
I putting this on for,
It's up to
Tuesday's meeting?
I would say yes, I would think that would be fine.
With the temporary appointment.
Yeah, with the temporary appointment for next, absolutely.
I don't think the structure is.
Would they get another raise,
structure is-
including this 2%, or raise be in discussion?
I'm gonna say we're just gonna stick with, they were okay, I think we just discussed the 2% and we all sat and they were fine with understanding that that's what it was, and there was no promise of Nick getting more
Yeah,
money.
the 2% is not a promotion, this is just,
Oh, I know.
2% is just.
And I think they were okay with it.
We had a retirement last month, our superintendent retired. So we have an obligation through civil service to appoint somebody as the permanent superintendent of public works. So I think this is us giving us a little bit of time, because it's 6 months, all the employees have agreed to allow us to try to do this, to try to test this. So we have a 6-month period of time. I think at the end of the 6 months, we can evaluate.
We agreed,
Since everyone at the table was that we would address that part of it.
at that time, we didn't see any need to say, yes, we're gonna do it now, and then if by
It didn't
some
work.
fluke it didn't work, to say, oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna take it back.
Yes.
So we don't want.
And I think that no one wanted that.
No one wanted that.
Did Ms. Moore, Ms. Kelly, did you want anything else that you wanted to, because we did discuss a few other things, were there any other concerns? And there was a lot of discussion about reallocating the funds from Hirsch Lake to Beaver Branch Park. I think hopefully you were familiar with that is about, that's just about finishing the project. Doesn't mean we won't do work down there, it's just a matter of the funding has been sitting there for a couple of years. We can always reappropriate money to get something done. Is there anything else?
I just wanted to say that regarding Smith Lane and Reed, the chief did tell me that the Belmore chief of police has allowed us to use their monitor.
Great.
So it will be there, and I believe it was installed today.
Okay.
And our people were given instruction
To,
to how to use it.
okay.
It's a little
But not to
different.
enforce it if they were.
At this point in time, it's just a warning type of
Okay.
thing.
For the audience, this is a speed monitoring, to let people know if they're speeding down Smith Lane.
And if anybody was able to see the quint that was at the firehouse today,
No.
it was, we all work. So that we could be there at 9:30 this morning, but I do understand that
New fire.
they did have the new fire truck there.
I know Pat did 10.
It was a sample of the one that we're looking at.
Sample.
Yeah, it's a sample, and then we're just gonna run through it, Pat did 10.
Make sure it fits in the garage.
Yes, it does. There's a 6-inch,
You're not gonna build a new garage?
no, 6 inches leeway. 6 inches
It was
leeway.
the way to do it.
Yeah.
Blow it in.
Do you know, I'm just asking, I'm not familiar with monitors, the roof monitors, but do they count cars by any chance, or vehicles that come?
Not this particular one.
This just gives us speed.
This is your speed.
Yeah, this is just speed. They can put a strap across the ground there to count.
That's a different monitor.
That's a different type of
That's,
monitor.
yeah, that's a different thing.
Different.
I don't think that's necessary, I think speed is more
I think that
what
will
we're
be
looking for, yeah.
That's great.
Don't forget, there's, in October is Fire Prevention Week, and the firehouse is getting ready for that. There's going to be a lot of equipment for us to look at. They will have the Summerdale Quint available for us to look at, Summerdale's Quint. So we will have a Quint to look at. Also, our new ambulance will be on display that day too. So it's October, I believe, the 10th. It's a Thursday night.
You'll remind us again.
Yes, I will, but it's, As far as I know, the ambulance is supposed to come the first of next week.
That's wonderful.
We're looking for.
That'll be nice, very nice. Mr. Root, did you have anything?
No,
Mr. White? Ms. Basio, did you have anything? Ms. Moore?
Yeah, I just,
Oh,
okay.
goodness.
No, go ahead.
The dog park.
That's what I'm coming, that's what I'm coming up. Just so the big audience that's here, as well as everybody else knows, there will be a ribbon cutting Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. I got gold scissors, all in your honor, so you can come out and cut the ribbon.
Ready to go?
Yes. I'll give you a stuffed one on the leash.
I got gifts for the doggies.
We have gifts for the doggies, there's gonna be a pep parade, it is on the website, it'll be at 10 o'clock. Animal welfare is coming from Voorhees, they're gonna set up a table. He was a little on the fence if they would have, there wouldn't be anybody adoptable that day, but there would be a couple of adoptees coming along just for the show.
Please, please.
Of it.
Tell Lisa, bring your dog.
Last time I did this, I ended up with.
Bring Tucker. Tucker was adopted.
We're waiting on, the only thing we're waiting on right now is the signage. I'm hoping to have it maybe tomorrow or the next day. I'm hoping, it has been ordered and I'm just kind of hanging on the signage right now. Otherwise, everything's been good. I want to also just say that they have, Public Works is now proud owners of a curb and line painter, which is awesome. So they have started painting the lines, they have, of the curbing, we started with the curbing, they've been doing them around the school area, they did do singly. So on that, I will say this, I urge any resident that watches this, if you are in an area that the curbing at your house is a paintable curb, I urge you, please help out the Public Works Department and edge that curbing. It is your responsibility, it would make the process go much quicker. I can't stress that enough. That
Make a
is,
better job.
it would, absolutely, that way they're not spray painting the grass and taking the extra time to have to go out and edge all of the areas that people don't maintain. The curbing is part of the responsibility of the property owner, and they did do part of Third Avenue, because I gave them the directive to make sure that they had the areas around the school maintained before anything else. And Third Avenue by Orchard is, they had edged it today, so I'm sure it'll be painted tomorrow. They also did clear an area today between Hirsch and Center off of Detmar. They took the backhoe in, they removed all the debris and cleared the area. That was on a complaint of a resident. Hopefully that will stop the dumping and the hanging out in that area since it's a lot more visible and it's cleared out. So,
And I'm also piggybacking on, we did, Ms. Moore and I did, we've sent a letter out to the residents, if you remember our last caucus meeting. We did send a letter to the four property owners adjacent to this paper street, which would be Detmar Terrace entering into Center Avenue. And the borough, it's been a point of contention about cleaning it, who uses it, things like that. And we're investigating the idea if the borough would vacate that property. And the four homeowners would then take possession of it, they would then own it and pay taxes on it. And then they would have to maintain it. We've gotten some positive feedback back, but we'll wait to see if what the final decision, it seems very similar to when we got rid of the passive walkways at Triton, I think it was very positive, and we'll wait to hear. So hopefully by next meeting, we'll have an answer from the four of them.
any other issue, I've got reports from residents, I've had reports about yard waste and things like that, they're all being addressed, and I got reports about streetlights being out. They have been addressed. I think Joyce did reach out to to PSE&G, and I think as of today, that there was a whole little quadrant out along Clements Bridge right there by Schubert. There were about 3 lights out. I don't know if they were all connected.
I don't know if they were.
Yeah, I don't know. It was not, it's not dark. I can't tell yet. I'll check tonight to see if they're done, but they have been on top of taking care of everything was reported, so I'm hoping that they'll address it soon. And we had concrete pad poured at Harry Williams and at the bike path by Smith Lane. We are waiting for the correct practice route to install the benches and the ever-ending garbage bin, and we'll finally be replaced. So that's where we are.
Great. Anyone else? Mr. Pace,
items, it's in the report that I provided that will go over the next meeting. But I already talked to Joyce, we're going to have 2 items for the agenda. One is fiscal year 2014 DOT grant application. So there'll be a resolution on your agenda for the continuation of Reed Avenue, that'll be phase 3. And also we're going to have a placeholder resolution, which is for the award of fiscal year 2013 DOT Reed Avenue phase 2 bid opening this Thursday. So so if we have positive results, we ask that we place on the next agenda. We just want to make sure we have enough time before the cold snap. It's getting a little colder this year than normal. I just want to make sure we're well done, paved, out of the way in October, and not trying to push something in November. So obviously,
So that would be awarding that one, because that DOT funding is already
Our
there?
understanding that we're going to have full solicitor review, and our recommendation will say subject to solicitor review. So that way we don't lose a whole month. This is very good.
Mr. Wright?
Actually, I have more of some Q&A versus a report, but I'll give an official written report the next meeting. The first item I want to go over was the fire grant. Basically, that's for
The air packs?
the air packs for regional consortium. The total grant was 60706. Front of me is the lead agency on that. So either at this meeting or next meeting, it will come for council requesting that we acted on. But this was a little tricky because of the match, there's 10% of the grant, there's a 10% match of 60,000 to change. And depending on the number of air packs each municipality is responsible for, that's how it's determined. So the quotes are in now, and fine tuning the quotes have come in for air packs. So I don't even know what our portion of the match is going to be until we get the final number. That's basically, they're going to buy as much as they can.
So the borough will get the whole 607,000?
Correct.
Paid for
We'll make the
everything?
full procurement, but
The towns will give us their
the
portion?
here is for the match portion, we're going to have to take in a revenue from each of the towns. So Belmar's going to give us their share,
And Heights.
Haddon Heights gives their share, and Barrington has their share. So until we get the final quote, then we won't know what that breakout is, so that's a little headache, but it's just something that's out there, it's going to be coming to you when it's ready to be acted on. Second item, I put a copy in the, I think I put it in the finances mailbox, was the, I guess, enclosures for trash.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that.
Public Works, but that's something.
I'll be honest, Josiano dropped them off, and I haven't had a chance because I can't get here in time, so that was on my agenda to look at them before
I didn't know if
council.
there was a timeline on it or.
Well, the only thing I think we should do with it is that's a funding issue again, so do we want to use our buildings funds to fix?
Did you get a copy of it?
It was an item.
I didn't get it yet.
I
I'm thinking I want.
I did bring it. But basically, our ordinance states that we have to have enclosures for each of our dumpsters. And Belmar came in and gave us a price for the 4-yard dumpsters, at Harry Williams building, it would be 9 foot wide, 11 foot deep. Do you have a copy of this? 6 foot high, block wall, bollards, poured concrete.
Gates across the front.
Gates across the front, $4,800, supply materials and construction. And then the discussion, because of the amount of recycling at the athletic fields, that they would build a larger one, 15 foot wide, 11 foot deep, also with a 6 foot high wall pretty deep. So we could put 2 4-yard dumpsters, one for trash, one for the recycling cans down there. And that came in at $6,350 with a total of $17,500. We haven't had a chance to really go over this on the finance side.
Now, I mean, you and I discussed.
here.
Well,
We just got it.
I thought you just put it up
it's
there.
been in the box, that he dropped it off, and I haven't even looked at it.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to look at it. But we did discuss the oversized ones down at the RY, because I think it would be a good thing, if nothing else, if not for a dumpster, for a place for them to house the recycle cans while they're full before Public Works picks them up. That way they're not just sitting around, getting tipped over, getting blown over if there's a storm or anything like that. That way they can house them when they're full, or take the empties, you know, and dump them into ones, like the big cans that work here at the borough. We can use those, we can utilize those.
The recycling is if people will bring them to
If
the,
they will do it.
yeah, have to people bring the
We gotta try
kids
to get everybody.
Can't expect them to do it, they don't have something.
to put it.
That's it.
So,
That's been the problem,
And
yeah.
I've got cans that I'll be happy to break down. They're big cans with wheels that have flip lids that they can take the smaller cans to dump into. Because we need to try to enforce it.
The old cans from the borough.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna put this closure at?
The Belmar came down and walked with us, and there were 3 locations, one where the existing, basically where the existing dumpsters are now. They would go, one at the library, basically the Harry
One at the
Williams
library.
Library.
We'll make one in our way.
The one at the RY field is over by where the building was taken down,
Yeah, yeah.
over by the,
Because there's a lot of people over there.
right, by the batting cages, over by that way, they had an
What are
area
you
marked
gonna
out.
do, concessions, you can throw it up the other end?
And the
And
other
then another one will be
Ones
down
that
the
go
other.
by Ballard, it's existing, that way they can get in with the truck.
big one's gonna be by Bowers, where the telephone pole sits, you can't really park there.
didn't they put down to make the other one up by where the building was, the same size as the
They would
one?
both be doubles.
They would be doubles, that's what they
Yeah,
recommended.
Belmar recommended both doubles in case you do have extra cans that you would build them in there. And, but the only thing, like I said, we just got this price, we don't know, we have to do a little bit of work. You know, we do need to get rid of the extra dumpster that the Borough is, we're paying for 2 dumpsters right now in the library, we need to pull that other one out. That's a waste management.
And what's the situation, since we're just talking about that, what's the situation at the RY with the one that's sitting on Elm?
They can get rid of it.
You can get rid of it?
Get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's paid for by the R1.
Yeah.
Right, so
We're,
that's good.
we're already, it's part of our contract.
Well, who has the contract for the one at the library?
The Borough
We
Market
can't,
does.
well, Borough Market canceled our contract. So,
I'm not
Why
sure.
not?
It's not paid for by the library, it's paid for by us, I'm under the impression. Maybe it was part of our contract, maybe they forgot that they left the dumpster there, I don't know. At some point, somebody's not gonna do
I have no problem with, going and saying, stop, come get your dumpster, I just don't want somebody else to be upset with this. So.
I'll reach out to Kathy, just to double check, Kathy will know for sure, but
Yeah,
I
don't
was under
believe
the
it's,
same impression that he's under, that it was.
it's not paid for by the
It's not paid
library.
for by the
But
library.
are the Belmar dumpsters there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Belmar, we've already purchased them, they're
They're
done.
there, we purchased, they're
Yeah,
ours.
yeah. So they've been pulling their trucks up and dumping them already.
And I'm gonna get Public Works to stencil on their Borough Run meter.
Yeah, we own those dumpsters.
They're ours.
The Borough Run needs dumpsters. Okay? Anybody else? Oh, you had more, sorry.
Might I also recommend that we discuss the possibility of moving sooner rather than later with the bond provision.
I think it's a great idea.
So this way, the items that are anticipated in the bond, the part, I'll pull up just to briefly refresh it. Again, this is the capital plan. Obviously, you do the ordinance, you are allowed to make changes to the plan, which notes that it supersedes the plan. So I can tell you that there was, the original plan, and just talking in generalities, included monies for the police server, which have been handled in another manner. So there's some flexibility in the original plan of about $20,000 there. I can tell you that the leafer could have went either way. There was a small amount of money that was put in for, not the leafer, I'm sorry, the line painter was put in for there, so that's another 4. The match for the air pack grant was originally anticipated to possibly be part of the bond ordinance, so there's 50,000 there. I know we were looking at, trying to adjust the funding for the leafer program and the equipment from that point of view. So, and again, we would see it in detail when the ordinance was done. Miscellaneous improvements to borough properties, as you marked at 125, and I was just talking with the engineer, that includes finishing out the generator, so that would complete the funding for the generator there.
You're talking about 2014 now, or you?
No, this is,
you're kind of
this is
going
the
to
13
This is
bond
13, yeah.
that normally we would do in November, and it would be approved at the end of December, and then we would get cash and fund in February. So there's, as long as we don't spend all of our money, the cash in now, creating a cash deficit at the end of the year, there's nothing that prevents us from putting the bond on the books and starting work. Basically, we have improvements to borough properties. I know that as part of the plan, that includes ROAA handicap in the short term. It includes addressing the fields, and also there's money there that's earmarked for roads, about 300, which the roads would actually be done in 14, but again, the planning part of that would take place now. So
We don't
there
have
is benefit from
2014.
the planning point of view to moving sooner, because you're talking about 2 readings in 20 days. So if we acted, if I contacted the bond council and we ironed things out within the next week, if we did a first reading at the September meeting, if your second reading is more or less going to be done at your October meeting, then you have 20 days. So it's not like you say, just wait until the end of the year, because you have to, first of all, you have to finish it before year end, because you can't carry it over. So we're really only about 6 weeks ahead of schedule by if we take action in September. So, but it's something that, rather than start to move the shell game of things, that we should just move forward with funding for.
The reason this has been brought up again is some of the efficiencies that the borough has had. For example, leaf season is going on. There was no money put aside for the leafer. And the idea is that we've not picked up leaves very well. If we brought, with this new plan with the Public Works Department, if we brought in another leafer, we would be able to pick the leaves up. But the only way to bring the leafer in is to have the funding ready to purchase this. And that's what Mr. Red is
Part of the
saying.
plan, there's about 25,000 for a leaf machine and 50,000 for the dump truck. We don't know what the sizing is going to be on that, but again, as I said, there's 50,000 from the grant for air packs. It could be moved around in the official ordinance, so.
Because you got to remember, we didn't know we were going to get the air pack grant. So
Correct, we had to budget monies because if we didn't get the grant, we're going to have to do a multi-year plan to.
Yeah, so we were borrowing money to buy air packs that we just got for free.
Correct.
And then the handicap parking down at the handicap sidewalk down at the Harry Williams RY area, that could be funded now with this.
Once you get the generator set for the municipal building, we've actually sized the generator set.
Now, that was a 2013 money, though, right?
Yes.
It was the 12.
Reallocated for the size of the generator set. Again, we were trying to do this more administratively, through a rental company, I believe, that did work out, so we actually had to design and put the gen set in. Did 400 kVA gen set. It's actually almost the size of the bus out there, that we're going to take the parking spot of the bus, and that's where the gen set's going to go. But additional monies are required in order to operate the entire building.
And remind everybody that last year's council put $125,000 to have a backup generator to run the borough facilities, because we have no backup generators other than, we have an agreement right now with our fire company.
Right.
They have our old generator now, they are our backup until we get something.
Steve, will there be enough room to put it over where we were discussing?
Exactly. Now, no, in that little alcove that's
Right.
actually facing Clemens Bridge, there's already existing transformer, so it can't go there. The size of this generator to accommodate this is approximately 8 feet by, I think it was 22 feet.
Yeah, there wouldn't be enough room.
So, if you know where we park the bus between the Sally Port and the
Yeah,
traffic closure,
yeah.
it will fit in there by code, and it'll just slide right in there. And that'll be the location.
Oh,
It was like design.
So it's actually, it's a good location. We actually went through and Rich was there, we went through the Sally Port, we know where we're on the conduit, tie it back into the main service. So,
Yes.
It should be secure, yeah, I think so, right?
I didn't think there would be enough room, because when we talked about it,
Against the wall.
when he told me how big it was, I know there's not enough room in that place.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, if power went out, you'd have to be able to run the police department. We couldn't do that right now.
That's correct.
Could not run the borough offices right now. We could not run the court. We could not run anything. Anything. So I think this was a good move from last year, and I think it'll follow. So that's positive. What else?
That's what we're working on right now.
That's what we're working on. I think is there any questions on this? The idea is typically the councils in the past have waited till November. This would only move it out.
That's kind of been my massaging of the timeline, just because this way, I don't end up at year end with cash deficit. If we did the bond in February and we didn't fund it for a full year, then I would go into the next year possibly with deficit cash because we didn't fund it yet. So basically, that's why we kind of approve it towards the end of the year, and then by the time all the design work's done, the funding's in place before we start building. But I think that for getting all the nuts and bolts in place, and there's some smaller items, what I don't want to do, because you're going to pay the same for bond counsel, if I get a bond that's $1 million or I do 3 bonds, it's not the same cost. So I'm going to basically pay 3 times the amount if I split it up and we do the leaper, because we should do that right away. If we address the handicap accessibility and we do something smaller there, or even with the Green Acres, if we go that route with here, then we do the rest of it later. Now we're going through, maintaining 3 sets of accounting records, and we're paying for 3 bond councils, and you're voting on 3 different ordinances. It's easier to just
Do it once a year.
Do it once a
once,
year.
but then I'm going to make it clear that we're not going to do the roads in November.
Yes.
So, they're going to get designed in the winter, and they'll be ready for next year.
And that's it.
Concept, so.
We've been designing.
Right.
Okay, so we want to, this would be an addition, and it would be a
Right.
first reading.
With your approval, I'll
First
read
reading
the bond.
To read the bond.
Are we gonna have it for Tuesday?
That shouldn't be a problem, so, as long as it's okay with council.
Yeah. So this is actually the bond amount that was in our budget that we
Correct.
introduced back in May.
Correct.
And if you want to look at that on the page, there's all the numbers that we talked about before. So it had the leaf in the truck, and it had the police software, I think,
Right.
different things like that. They were already on there, but we just didn't fund it until, we won't fund it until the end of the year.
So,
So we do fund.
so we'll still be able to get the big truck?
Well, I think that the public works guys are still researching
You know about the truck and the leaf?
whether we're going to do a short-term lease on that and how to do 20.
It might be different. Might be better to just do some, a stopgap measure just to get us through the season. I think the leafer we'll have forever. The truck, we have to work it out.
Did Pat talk to you today?
Because we still have 2014's money.
Maybe we'll get to you tomorrow.
But are we, well, I guess my question to the committee's up here, and we're talking, should we, both committees here, should we still pursue the original smaller truck that we were referring to?
No.
Because we still have an issue with that size also.
The
That's why I was putting-
question is, how big of a leafer would work in the borough of Rome?
We want a big one.
No, because they say a big one isn't necessarily the
Yeah,
best
some of the
source.
streets,
That's a big
yeah.
So what do
Did
they
it say
think?
that?
I
I thought they wanted it.
don't think they wanted the huge one because they said like having a huge one,
Too big.
it was too
Too
hard to
big?
get around.
Oh, once again,
And
yeah.
that's
some of
why,
our
I don't know,
streets
maybe I
are small.
misunderstood, was that not what we kind of discussed the other day? Did they not
I
say they
think
were kind of
that
like?
the big one was not optimal with the smaller dump.
Right.
I think you
Yeah.
need the supersized, you need the supersized dump, which we said that we could possibly do a short-term lease each year to resolve that part of the problem.
Right.
There's other options possibly.
So what kind of leaf are we gonna buy?
That is, Pat has all the information.
Well, whatever leaf we buy, we have to buy a matching truck.
Oh, I know.
That's the barrier.
Pat's done a lot of research on it already. He
Mhm.
met with a couple people, he's done research as far as the lease goes. I met him at 7 o'clock this morning.
Right.
He was supposed to kind of come and talk to you, and then he was going to see the Quentin. I never got the rest of it.
We'll get back to them again. We'll find out if they think 3 small leafers running
This one
around.
we'll have to get the answer
Soon.
before Tuesday.
Yeah. You need the answers.
This is the reason for the push, is if we're gonna do something, we need to do it now, because otherwise, we can get the leaf season's over, so.
What's the plan?
What's the guys?
No, the mayor's asking how do we have enough men to run 3 leafers? Well, part of this whole
Get better on the street.
plan was to move men around to be able to run 3 trucks.
Well, with the 3 teams, we
Well, that's
shouldn't
just
have
it.
any trouble.
That was the teams that Ben was talking about. Was the, yeah.
Yeah.
God
If
bless
there's
you.
3 people on a team,
There's always sickness or something.
Well, we'll do our best. We'll do our best.
I'm remaining hopefully optimistic. That's what I've been doing since January, so.
Oh, chickens.
So Ben, what's the plan?
Well, it looks like
Hard to
we're,
what?
What kind of a leaf are we gonna
What?
buy?
Pat's got, I don't have the paperwork yet, I don't have it written in stone. Pat's done a tremendous amount of work because he's gone out and talked to them, he's been doing phone calls. I don't have the ability, unfortunately, to time into that, and Pat's been tending to it. I said, I met him at the dog park at 7 o'clock this morning before I went to work, so it was a brief conversation. He does have it, he has everything.
you want a decision by Tuesday, though? Is that what you're saying,
Yes,
Tuesday?
and I will follow up with him.
We'll have a decision by Tuesday.
Yes.
By Tuesday, we'll have a plan.
And they're checking the prices.
They check them. Okay, so Tuesday, that's what we'll work on. We'll try to have a good lead.
It'd be good.
Okay, is there anything else?
Not so much.
Okay, hold on, we got to do our good and welfare. This portion of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, give us your name and address.
Val Palisano, E31 North Oakland Avenue. Just wondering when the property tax bills will be coming.
Yes. We are waiting, I'll speak, you want to speak, or we're waiting from the
I can take
state?
this one. I have.
You have this?
I have a checklist that we're going over right now, and I'm anticipating, although I don't want to put out there, that we'll be able to take action on Tuesday, and it'll probably take about 2.5 weeks after that. So we're probably talking, should be in the mailboxes in 3 weeks if all goes well.
The state sends back a checklist. Once we do our checklist, we will adopt on Tuesday our final, and then Joyce has to work day and night.
It's all electronic now, so
She's gonna stuff the envelopes. Oh, we.
No.
I'm making fun of
I
it.
am getting my upgraded stuffer for no more money. I think in a couple of days, that he's promising.
So the stuff will get the tax bills out fast.
When they go
All
out,
those waiting for their tax bills.
there is a 25-day.
This had-
And you still have just as much time to act.
25 days.
You still have at least 25 days.
Now, I know nothing can be done now, but I live on the 800 block of South Oakland, the one that floods up. You know, I'm just being the squeaky door. We need to be looking into it for future heavy rains and flooding.
Well, you know, you and I have spoken,
Yes.
and this year has been the exception to the rule. I mean, by far. And I know that you're in a bad area, and it's a nice way that it segues right from Bowers, right through Oakland, right through Reed, right on down. So it's nice. It's like a nice little
Oh,
flow
yes.
that you have that goes through all the streets. So it's not just singling out yours.
I know.
But, I don't have the answer to it, but it definitely, this year has just been.
I think that with the next road project, I don't know when Oakland's slated because we don't have necessarily a plan on all the roads. But I think when we do road work, like when we just did Reed, we were able to fix some sewer problems.
Yeah.
Correct? When we fix roads, we do try to fix curbs and stormwater issues.
The drainage we fix along the roads really is more of the ponding, puddling, the icing, that type of stuff. I would say over the last 2 significant rains, this borough as well as many other boroughs, none of the storm sewers were able to accommodate these rains.
Nobody's.
And even private property owners, people, single-family developments down in Gloucester County and Washington County, all over there. Everybody flooded.
Everybody's gonna do it.
But I know that we've always had some water issues along those roads.
I think Oakland's problem is Bowers.
Yeah, and that might be the bigger
It
issue,
is.
is Bowers.
Definitely is.
And if we ever do, you know, Bowers should be paid in stormwater. There are no stormwater inlets on Bowers Avenue.
It's been a while since the borough has actually addressed any stormwater. I mean, that's something that you should look at in your future plans, to start doing some drainage remediation. You know, it's,
Well, we only have 300,000 next year. Decide what
I'm
roads.
saying going forward, you know, it's something that.
Okay.
Also, Green Acres, we're going to be sort of renting out. Other towns or groups will come in to use our.
No, Green Acres is a public facility, so anyone's allowed to use that, because the funding that originally came to do that part was state money, and so we have to keep it open to everyone. The borough does allow for groups to come in if they give us the insurance, so that they can block off the time for them to use it for that.
All right, do we have rules of conduct? Like, you know, you can't play if it's rained heavily the night before or something. I'm looking to protect it.
The asset, yeah. I think we'll have to look at that again. I mean, there are rules right now that don't allow for public drinking and the hours of the park and things like that. You know, I know what your point is. There's no.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, there's a no in front of it. But I agree, we're gonna have to look into that a little bit more. It's something that's new. We do have something for the tennis courts, and there is some contact. With the dog park, we've just established rules for that. I agree. Once the property gets used, we're gonna have to figure some things out.
Okay, and we might need a dumpster down there too.
That's already been discussed. We've already discussed that.
Oh.
I already discussed that with Joe Ciano, and we,
That's our Belmar.
that's our Belmar connection, who helped us get the ones that we need for the borough. And as soon as we're in a position to get the fields up and running, there definitely
Yeah,
should be a
the big
dumpster and an enclosure.
And recycling, yeah.
Absolutely.
Terrific, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, is there a motion to close the public portion?
I make a motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Public portion is closed. Is there a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Second, Mr. White? All in